My name is Paco Roncero. I'm the chef and cuisine director of Paco Roncero. Now we are here in our small workshop, which is an annex to our restaurant, where we dedicate ourselves to, as the word says, investigate. We investigate the creation of our dishes. But for us, the most important thing is the emotion, the sensoric part of the food. And this is what we wanted to do in this space. Speaking of the past, I will tell you that we created the space in 2010 when we were asking ourselves the question why we as chefs, we focus so much on what's inside the meal and not what's happening around the meal. And I think it's important to have a nice restaurant waiter that smiles at you, but then we started to think about emotions, about the sensoric part of the food, and something that added to that, and we decided to involve technology. So we wanted to use technology at the service of gastronomy. And this is what we all strive to look for, nice experience and make the customers happy. We've had this space for more than 10 years, and the evolution of this place was that we had a restaurant in Ibiza, and then in 2020 we knocked everything down and we recreated this space. We made it warmer and we focused on all the points I mentioned: technology, emotions, cuisine. And today we think this is a tendency, and we decided to go in that line and make the world happy. That's why the space is created in 100% basing on sustainability, carbon footprint. We will be using recycling many products. I'm not going to be focusing on that topic very much because we want to focus on cooking, but a very important element of sustainability is financial, economic sustainability. That's why this space is based on 3 pillars, as I mentioned: circular economy, financial sustainability. And why have we made that? In 45 square meters, we can recreate a restaurant. In all the journeys I make, I focus very much, and when you go to the United States, the restaurants are spacious, they have huge rooms, they have huge cuisines, a lot of people, but in the times we live now, it's becoming more and more difficult. If you go to Japan, to Tokyo, for instance, you see that many renowned restaurants, they have 1, 2 tables, 12 sets of plates, and we see that not so many people want to involve in big projects. We know that in small spaces we can create something wonderful, and we have made an analysis, a business plan, and we decided that with 3 people and 45 square meters you can make a feasible restaurant. And this space is packed with technology. You can play with that and you can change gastronomic concepts, and this is what we would like to do today. However, I would like to speak about sustainability today. That's the part of the circular economy and making use of the food that we have. That's why today we're going to be creating 6 meals. Of course, our menu is composed of many more, but we would like to show you what we do here, how a restaurant works, how we understand gastronomy, how we make use of all the technology to make the customers feel unique out of the regular thing they know. And we believe that space is very important. Here we can put in practice any idea we might have. When people come to our research workshop, they come here to enjoy, relish, and have a very unique experience than in any other restaurant. I will not focus on that so much. Let's start cooking. We will be working with a very unique product. The guiding theme will be grouper fish today. We will be using different techniques, and we will be preparing 6 different meals with 6 different elements of the grouper fish. Each element will be treated in a different way, so that we want to make sure that the customer is not tired of eating the same type of fish all the time. We want to make the meal magical and make the customer happy. So let's move on and start. Let me introduce Javier Alonso to you. He's the head chef of the restaurant. We will be working together. We will be respecting the distance we have to keep now. So let's put the masks on and let's start cooking. Javier, can you join me, please? Okay, so this is Javier. Javier is wearing his mask. I'm going to put my mask on. I'm going to pick some of the meat pieces we will be using today so that you can see what we will be working on. This is a small example because out of the grouper we can have different elements. We can use the skin, the eyes, the lips, as you can see here. We have the lips, cocota, el galete, we have the belly parts, we have the loin part, and something really important when we work with different products, it's very important to understand the product you're working with. Within the grouper, there are different grouper types. The yellow grouper, depending where you catch the grouper, it's going to be different. But for us, it's not going to be so important today. At the level of texture, at the level of the taste, it's very important to know if you're working with a deep sea grouper or not deep sea grouper. And then we will mature the meat during more days or not. We will be working today with a grouper that is deep sea and not deep sea grouper. And we have matured the meat for 1 month. This piece has been in the temperature chamber and humidity chamber for 32 days. Today is the 33rd day. And the other grouper is the deep sea grouper that has a less smooth meat with less taste. So let's start with the first meal and let's store that away. I'll tell you about the ingredients that we have here. We'll be making a type of sashimi. This is the high back part of the loin, and it's been cured in a chamber for 1 month. As I told you, it's very important to keep it in the right conditions, so the temperature and the humidity has to be controlled. We cut the meat in a very thin slice. To do that, we had to freeze it first, then cut the slices very thin. So today we will be making type of sashimi of this high back grouper part, and as I told you before, I can create a unique sashimi of that, but I would like to add certain things because, of course, this is the main theme of my meal, grouper, but we will be using the Spanish ingredients, and this is what we want to do. Take the products of the typical Spanish cuisine and maybe involve them in influences of the cuisines of other parts of the world. So sashimi is the Asian cuisine. To finish off the meal, we will spread it with Iberian ham. So this fish with the Iberian ham works perfectly because it's not so juicy and not so tasty as belly. So this part of the fish is not so greasy. That's why we will be working with this piece in the same way as we work with the tuna. So we will be using loin, and we will be adding this fat point that we will be obtaining from the Iberian ham. Then we'll be achieving the mountains and sea touch. So we have placed a tiny bit of the Iberian ham. That's why we will be obtaining a very, very juicy meal. Again, we'll be adding more fat with the caviar, and we'll make it taste very juicy and tasteful thanks to that. I always tell the guys to put some more, but they want to keep the line straight. Then cured yolk, and to refresh it in the middle, it has tomato tartar. So anchois, to have this strong salty element, then Iberian ham, then something very delicate, which is the tomato and the bread, to make it more crunchy, to clean our mouth, and then the caviar and cured yolk. This is how we can create a plate where the grouper is the main theme of the food, but then with those different products, you're creating this experience that's going to be unique in the mouth of the person. So again, the caviar is the salty element, and the tomato in the middle of that to cut all previous tastes. So within such a small plate, we can have a variety of different tastes. Okay, so the meal number 1 is finished. Let's start with the Hilda. I told you that the technology has to give a service to what we do in the kitchen. We have many touchpads here, but there's this magical touch to that. I always thought that it would be so magical if we could have the food falling or being lowered from the ceiling or from the sky. So if you focus, this is what we are going to be doing here. This is going to be our version of the very traditional Spanish food, and that's going to be Hilda. So the Hilda is going to come down from the ceiling. As I told you, the technology has to be at the service of gastronomy, of cooking, of cuisine, because the food doesn't have to be only tasteful. It has to be magical. You can look at it, you can touch it, you can remove it from this bubble. So this is the Hilda. A little bit of olive oil fell off. This is a Hilda, a pinch that was made with, of course, the grouper. And in Spain, they are prepared in brochette. We have created that in a different way. It was not a brochette. We have laminated the loin, as you can see. And you can see that it's got a different color. We have marinated that in a very Asian type. We like to be influenced by different journeys we make, and here we were influenced by our journeys to Asia. We have marinated this loin for 6-8 minutes, depending on the thickness of the loin. But I wouldn't do more than 6-8 minutes because it would be too much. This marinade is based on soy. So this is salty, then oyster sauce, and it cures the loins, but not too much. Very often people are tired of eating only raw food, so we want to make sure that we have something that's going to be unique, but on the other hand, we want to offer the customer different kinds of food that would be cooked, steamed, and raw. So, as you can see here, one of the ingredients of the Hilda are the peppers and olives, but we added something more on top of that. Javier is now preparing the food with tuna, and then chili peppers in spices. They're very, very delicate that melt in your mouth. We wanted to offer the customer the piparra, the peppers that will give us the texture to the plate. It's very soft, and together with the olives, it's going to have a very nice mixture. Then pickled onion. Now it's a good fig season, and it's a bit sweet, so it's the fermented fig, and then the powder of the chili peppers in spices. It's powdered as well. Now we're adding some flowers on top of that. And we will be finishing with an aged egg. And we will be grating that aged egg on top of that. To finish off, clovers that, apart from the color, they give the right taste that we need for the plate. Let's take the grater and let's grate it. It's important to grate not only the white part of the egg, but also the yolk part of the egg. Let's clean it here. I'll put it here to make it more comfortable for you. Let's clean the space. We wanted to make a different twist to the traditional Hilda with the influence of the Asian cuisine and the mixture of that with the Spanish cuisine. This is how you can see that the grouper keeps being the main theme of our food, but in a different way. This grouper has been matured for 15 days, and why only 15 days? Or why have we used that for this Hilda? Because by marinating that, we add different flavor to that. And if we kept that for longer, I think the taste of the grouper would be too strong and would overcome all other ingredients that we wanted to put on top of that. So that's our second meal. You can be preparing the next one.
Bueno. Vamos a ir con el siguiente plato.
This is another plate that we will be preparing. This is a fascinating meal for me, a very simple one. We knew the ingredients of the meal, but we never thought of composing that in this way. And it works perfectly all together. And this is a meal that is one of the most favorite ones among our customers, and we're very proud of that. So we will be using galete. We can call it, that's from the throat part of the fish. It's a very juicy part of the meat, very delicate, and we thought that it would work perfectly with the rest of the ingredients. So I'll tell you the story about how we do it. So the ingredients that we will be using is foie gras. This is what Javier is putting now. It's a pâté of foie gras that we have made with duck, 50% and 50% of the grouper liver. This is how the taste of the grouper is not so strong, and we decided to combine it with the duck. To make it a bit sweeter, we're using also elements like with apples and cured grouper meat. As you have seen, we have prepared this special shape. Then we're putting some diced grouper apples inside, and we will be closing that. Let's close it now. And this is how we are preparing that. As you can see, Javier is starting to close the galleta. We have closed those parts of meat in a very fine way, and they have been marinated in green and black tea. We didn't want to add any salty elements on top of that, because then we will be using consommé that's going to be salty enough. So once we have that part done, let's put it in the fridge so that it becomes stronger in taste, and that's the final product of what we have done now. I think you can perfectly see those small slices and elements of the apple, the dices of marinated grouper. So let's finish the plate now. We serve it cold. Let's put this piece in the center. And once again, we'll add some texture. They will add some texture and they will enhance the sweetness, but we want to make it very subtle. Then osmotized apple that gives us the texture that is very different than the texture of the fish, and it's going to give us the freshness. Let's finish that with a consommé of miso, clarified and jellified. This consommé de miso was made not only with the miso, but also with fish bones of the grouper fish. Then let's finish that with frozen powder. It's a frozen powder that we made out of the foie of the grouper and of the duck. As you have seen, it's a very simple technique. We've used that many times throughout the years, and we've created that for pâté. We froze that and then we grated that, and this is how you obtain this kind of frozen powder. It's a very tasty, rich in flavor element of the frozen powder. How do we recommend to eat it? Take bit by bit of the foie, of this texture, and to always finish this meal with the last spoonful of miso. So that's one more. plate we have prepared, a fascinating one for us. But the most important part is that it fascinates our customers as much. Okay.
Venga, vamos a por el erizo.
Let's go for the sea urchin.
Ves para allá. Ya. Bueno.
Let's
Vamos
move
con el
on
siguiente
to
plato.
the next plate.
En esta ocasión vamos a trabajar.
In this dish, we'll be
con el
working
erizo
with
quizás
the
como
sea urchin
producto
as the
principal.
main
Aquí tenemos
as the
unas
main,
yemas, unas ganadas de erizo que hemos sacado previamente.
theme.
Pero
We'll be
donde
working with the
el
gonads,
mero
but the
lo vamos a
grouper
usar sobre
will be
todo
used as if
como si
it was
fuera, las
the
tripas o los
callos, the stew
habituales
common in
del
Spain,
cerdo, y la piel la
and
vamos a
the
usar
skin
como si
will be
fueran
used
las
like
cortezas, ¿no?
the
de un cerdo, un
chicharrón, like
Con
the
lo cual
rinds.
vamos a aportar, por un lado, melosidad con esta piel que
So we have
hemos
dehydrated
deshidratado
the skin
previamente,
and then
y después hemos
hydrated and
rehidratado
then
y frito,
fried it, sorry.
perdón, y una vez rehidratada
We'll
la vamos a
cook it
cocinar
as
como
if
si
it
fueran unas
was
tripas de bacalao,
callos,
unos
the
callos tradicionales,
stew common in
y
Spain.
por otro lado le vamos a
And
aportar
then we will add
esa
this
textura del
texture of
que
chicharrón
hemos
rinds
realizado con
that
la
we'll
piel
be
del
using out of
Es
that
un plato
skin.
muy sencillo, pero gustativamente
It's
un
a
plato
very,
muy
very
rico, muy
tasty
rico. Aquí
dish.
lo que tenemos
First
en
of
un
all,
principio es
it's a
un
consommé of miso,
de miso, un
very
consomé
delicate one.
muy suavecito, en el que le hemos aportado
We
un
have
toque
added
ligeramente
some
cítrico.
citric fruit
Vamos a
taste to that.
añadirle las
So let's
gónadas
put the
del
4
erizo,
5
4, 5,
gonads
dependiendo un
of
poquito
sea
después
urchin, depending
del
on the
recipiente.
bowl that you're using or the plate. Perfect.
Y ahora le vamos a ir aportando los diferentes
Let's add
toques.
some more
Por un lado, le
touches
vamos a
on
poner
top of
una
that.
salsa
Let's
tártara
now
que hemos
use the
realizado
tartar sauce
de-
that was
con las
made
gónadas de los
with
erizos,
sea urchin.
y al que le hemos también aportado
We
algún
have
toquecito crujiente
added
de
some
la piel
fried
frita del
skin
mero.
of the grouper, which will
Simplemente
add the
una
crispy part to that dish.
Por otro lado, tenemos
Then on the
un
other hand, we
jugo
have
de cerdo
the
con cítricos,
pork juice with citrus fruit.
que le volvemos a aportar
So
ese
that's
toque,
going to be
de
the-
tierra, de montaña,
the earthy,
volvemos a
the
crear,
mountain
entre comillas, un mar y
touch.
montaña,
As I told you,
algo
we
que
like to
nosotros
combine the sea
hacer.
and the mountain part. So that's the sea, sorry, that's the mountain and earth part.
Y aquí tenemos, pues,
And
las pieles
this is
guisadas
the
del
stewed
mero,
skins
las
of
que os he
the
dicho que van a
grouper.
hacer
We
como si
did
fuera de
that
las
in the
tripas,
same way
como si
as
fueran
we
los
would
callos,
do that with the tribes,
y
with
las guisamos en
the
un
stew.
jugo de mero que hacemos exactamente igual como si fuera un jugo de carne.
So
donde
we
cogemos
did
nuestras
that in the
sardinas,
same way
las
as we would
doramos,
make a
le
stew
hacemos
out of
ingresa,
regular meat
las,
with
en
bones.
tinto,
So then
añadimos
we
el agua,
add
hacemos un jugo tradicional,
red
pero
wine,
en este
but
caso simplemente con las
here
espinas del mero. Sí que es
we
verdad
have made it
intentamos que no
with
sea un jugo muy, muy, muy
grouper bones.
aromático,
We didn't make it
porque
very
queremos
aromatic because we
salvaguardar
wanted to
el sabor
keep
puro
the
del crujiente
flavor
que hacemos.
of the
Bueno,
grouper
y ya para
itself.
terminarlo, lo vamos a terminar
We will finish the dish now
con algún alga y con los
with
crujientitos a modo de chicharrón
crispy rinds, chicharrón.
de las pieles del mero. En esta ocasión, quizás el
So the main
producto
product
principal sí que es
is
el erizo,
the
muy
sea
gustativo,
urchin, as you
pero
tasted,
es verdad
but
que
what
el que le va
will
a aportar
add this
magia en
magic
boca va a
in the
ser
mouth will
esas
be
tripas de la piel,
the
esos crujientes
the
de
rinds
chicharrón
of
y
the grouper,
es un
so the
plato, la verdad,
chicharrón.
también muy,
It's
muy
going to be a
rico.
very magical
Un
plate.
plato
We
que
have
acabamos de
we
poner
have
en nuestro
put it in
menú y que la
our
gente
menu, and the
sale
people
fascinada porque es
leave the
verdad que
place
España es un país
fascinated because
de
Spain
erizo.
is the place of the sea urchin. So that's one more dish we have prepared for you.
Vale. Vamos con el
Let's move
siguiente.
on to the next one.
Vamos a preparar. Sí. Déjamela por ahí. Perfecto.
Okay, so let's move on to the next dish. It's going to be the last one, but we will make two different things in the same dish. So in this dish, we come back to all the influences of the Spanish cuisine. This is a dish that we have altered. We were preparing that 20 years ago because that was a typical stuffed hake. People liked it very much, but now the meal sounds very much antiquated and outdated. So we wanted to reinterpret the meal, and today we will be using grouper belly that was cooked at 62 centigrades, but with a cooking point of 41 degrees inside. So the grouper belly is very delicate and perfectly cooked, very delicate, very subtle and very elegant. On this occasion, we have used a grouper that was matured for 1 month, and we keep maturing that because we think it's going to be much stronger, but at the same time, the maturing, if you make it in the right conditions, it's going to be very subtle and very elegant flavor. So we thought that for this dish, it's going to match perfectly what we wanted. We will finish the dish with peppers sauce and the edible crab, vinegar and textured oil. And a very important part is going to be bilbaína, a very typical Spanish sauce made based on like pil texture. To get this jelly out of the grouper, what we do is we take all the bones and all the parts that we will not be using out of the grouper, so we put that in vacuum and we cook it in low temperature for a long period of time. And this is how we get this kind of jelly. Let's see if I have any spoon here to show you the jelly texture. As you can see, it's perfect to use extra virgin olive oil and to mix it and to create this sauce. We have aromatized that with herbs and spices, and we have created a pil sauce. But to show you what is this place, I wanted to tell you a couple of words about a product that is completely magical, and our restaurant would not work properly without that. We have a lot of extra virgin olive oil in our workshop. I'll be approaching now this, let's say, library of different kinds of olive oils. And we focus so much on the olive oil because I have to adapt the olive oil to the right dish I'm going to be using. But in order to do that properly, you need to know and be an expert in olive oils. As you can see, this is our exposition of olive oils. We have more than 120 different olive oils. We have more than 45 varieties of different olive oils. And each of those olive oils have very different characteristics. In this meal, I thought Farga olive oil or Arbosana would work perfectly. I've had the opportunity to taste all of those. Picual would not be good because it's too spicy, or I would not be using morisca or favorosa, rebondilla, or maybe the one I've discovered quite recently, Zorzal de Ribes, which is a marvelous product. So let's mix technology with cuisine. In one of those occasions when I come here and pick this olive oil, this is Farga variety. Let's see on the screen now. Let's have a snapshot of that and let's see the characteristics of that olive oil. What we can see here is that it's got some spiciness, it's a bit sweet, it's quite balanced, it has some bitterness, it's got some flavors of the green leaves, mature fruit and almonds. This olive oil could work very well, but let's use another one. This is Arbosana olive oil, more delicate than the previous one, but it's good to taste it and to try it if it works with your dish. It's got a very strong sweet taste. It's not spicy at all, so that works perfectly because I added some spiciness with the peppers. The bitter works very well, very subtle taste of the green leaves and the tomatoes and the almonds, very delicate, but quite high point of the sweetness. So if we compare the two of those, we see that Arbosana would be much better for this dish, because you can first taste it and you can see the diagrams, you can see what olive oil is more delicate and what will give me what I'm looking for. So the sweetness, the suppleness, and the very delicate touch of the green leaves and fruit. That's why the pilpil, I would emulsify that with Arbosana olive oil. We have a lot more variety of those, we could pick more, but this is a marvelous olive oil and I would pick this one, so let's go for this one. To finish off the plate, we will put some peppers cream in the middle of the plate, then edible crab that we have cooked, marinated, or we have seasoned that with edible crab, and then a mayonnaise of black garlic. It's not a mayonnaise, but it's like a black garlic cream. Then we will be using the bellies of the grouper. It's very important to cook it properly, so the cooking point of this belly is very important. 41 degrees inside, 62 degrees of the cooking temperature of the oven. Let's add the bilbaína, the pilpil sauce, that is going to cover all the grouper. And then, when creating a new plate, you know that it's a fantastic dish. Why? Because we work with exceptional product. It's an amazing belly that was matured, but we need those final touches that will distinguish the plate from a regular to a magical one. I always say that the final touches make the meal from regular to amazing. So we have reduced vinegar, and we're adding that as well, and black garlic mayonnaise, and then some small spots of textured arbosana olive oil.
Bueno, también aprovecho para contar dentro de nuestra biblioteca que sí que es verdad que nos ha costado
It's true
mucho
that
conseguir
it's been hard
todos
to
estos
obtain all
aceites.
those
Al final,
different varieties of olive oil. Of course, there are more than 200 varieties of olives. People tend to know maybe 8, 10 varieties. And we have obtained to have in our place more than 45 varieties. I treat it as a huge achievement. But as we are now in an international congress, we will be very happy to receive olive oils from any parts of the world that would like to join the shelves of our olive oils, that would like to share with us their culture, their tastes. I believe that olive oil is a magical product, so we would like to invite some more producers to join the shelves. As I said, this grouper belly dates back to what we were preparing during banquets 20 years ago, but this is not the end. We will be making a buño relleno, which is like a little donut, little bun, that is going to be stuffed with rooster's crests. Let's come back to this sea and mountain aspect of the dish. In this case, that's going to be the lips of the grouper. They are very jelly-like, very pleasing, very delicious, tasty, and the rooster's crest will add that texture, and it's going to add a very different flavor. We are using a technique to make those donuts or those buns in a very typical way. When I take it and I fry it, it's going to be completely full, and that's okay. I can add something inside, then I can fry it, and that would be great. But what we have noticed that by putting the stuffing, because the stuffing is frozen, and by putting the stuffing of the rooster's crest with the lips of the grouper, and then once frozen, then you fry it, it creates an empty space on the inside of the bun. This is how we have a perfect part that is filled with stuffing, but then we have this empty space, and we will be using that empty space to add different types of sauces inside of the bun. Javier is finishing that. Let's make it in a way that everybody can see that. Okay, let's cut it now. Let's store that away. Let's finish that. Let's put it on this plate that we have created for this dish. We will finish that with the Salsa Brava, a very typical sauce of the traditional Spanish tapas. And the lips and the rooster's crest have been cooked in this sauce. So first of all, you eat the grouper that is stuffed with all the flavors of the very traditional cuisine, and then you finish that off with a bun that is stuffed with rooster's crest and the grouper lips. So that's the last plate, last dish that we have created for you. Let's cut it through so that you can see what's on the inside of the bun. So the vapor have created space for the sauces, so we get a bun that is very juicy inside when you have it in the mouth. When we've fried the bun, you have to let it sit for 45-50 minutes. This is how you get a bun that it's not greasy, and on the inside you have the space where you can add the sauce. So that's the last plate we have created for you today. I'll remove the mask now. So that has been all we have prepared for you today. I hope we have added some value, and thank you, Javier, for being today with us. Thank you, Javi. And I'll remove the mask so that you can see my face. I would like to thank you very much. For me, that was wonderful to be joining you during this Congress. I'm happy I could share my place, my workshop, and my experience and my work with you. So, all the greetings from the team of Paco Roncero Taller. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.